So that again, everybody knows this. We do this Sunday morning. So tomorrow is Memorial Day in the United States.
Yes, and when I was living in Rochester, I was a City of Rochester pipe band, and I was a tenor drum. And I remember my very first march. I guess it was March. I twirling them around, and the sticks went right up in the air. And I remember running back, and my friend Whitey Smith, Captain Whitey Smith, he was laughing at me, and the tenor drum is a lot different than an ordinary drum. You have to swing your leg. I know it's hard to in the radio, but my leg would be coming up and the drum would be coming down. And
you guys tenor drums were more for showing off.
Yeah, we were showing off.
But you were the tenor drum's the one that you do all the fancy stuff with the stick work.
Yeah.
And I can remember your mother, my grandmother, would knit those crochet, I should say, the little tassels that went over the end of the drumsticks.
It was 4 of us, show off, but I tell you, it took me a long time to get.
You practiced and practiced and practiced. Remember
dogs would bark at us.
Remember I remember practicing at home, and you had to wear gloves because you would wear out your
white
skin.
gloves, yeah.
Remember, you practiced so much that you had blisters on your hands, and that were bleeding, and you had to
all
wear.
Of a sudden, it came to me, boom.
It was something to see the way you used to do it. I used to try.
I remember the dogs used to bark. I used to play, and I could not get it. I remember one time. We were marching in Buffalo, and the bass drummer. So all the bass drummers, boom, and I took it to Kodak, and I had Whitey paint the rampant lion on it, and it's City of Rochester.
That's the big drum that is in front of you, the huge drum,
great big
boom, boom,
drum,
boom, boom.
So I took over, and I carried it, and I was really banging, and I looked over at the snare drum, and he kept looking at the drum, and there was all red stuff all over the place. And I thought, oh, Whitey, I wonder why my friend Whitey not put
good oil paint on it. You thought the paint was dripping.
And at the end, I looked and at the end there was a great big hole in my glove, and the blood was coming out of my finger. It was all over the. Boy, I tell you. That when you were playing those pipe bands, and I remember the pipe major saying to me, someday you'll go into another world. And I remember it happened to me for about 30 seconds. I was in East Rochester, and we were really playing well. Cock of the North, Bonnie Dundee, and Scotland the Brave, and all that. We only played 6 good tunes. And I actually went into another world. And it was just, and we had 2 pipe majors, Dick Rentoul. He was about 6'5", and with the bonnet on top. We were the richest band in the world. There's no band getting money. We used to march. We used to get $200 a parade.
Well, plus people don't in the States. Boy, parades are so much bigger in the States, and all the bands were in competition. So you would go into these, and you would also win.
Yeah.
The band would win the competition. Who was the best band, and you get money for that. So people, you had the red tunics. You didn't have the little khaki shirt on. You had the really hot, and they were heavy wool. Those red tunics with
march right to the beer tent.
Your Congorum.
Go right to the beer tent.
Oh boy, it was, really. And you had the huge
and hats. I remember the 48th Highlanders. They were great. They used to come on. They were a great band. We were just a street band, but we looked good.
Yeah.
And we used to get our bonnets. Big ostrich feathers used to come down halfway down. The rest of the people used to get
spats.
Everything was. We look good. Anyhow, Memorial Day.
We always think of your friend Whitey Smith.
Captain Whitey Smith.
We talked about him before, but he started as a buck private, and he had field commissions all the way up to captain.
Yeah, he in combat.
So which means everybody who was in front of officers in front of him were killed.
I think he started in South Africa, or in Africa.
North Africa, he fought Rommel.
And fought Rommel, and then they made his way up to...
then he went to Sicily.
Went
up to Palermo, then crossed over into Italy, and went all the way up to Mount Cassino. And I think that was...
He had 10,000 men underneath him.
He
10,000.
was a real leader. He was
a real leader.
How much did you and him talk about the war?
We'd talk about the war, and I said, we'd have a few beers, and I said, do you ever shoot anybody, shooting? He said, And I said, did you really, And then you would never say, you'd only talk about the good thing. And then after the war, he came back. I'll tell you a story, one more story I'm going to tell you about Whitey. That he was all set to come back, say, on the 2nd, and a priest came to him who was a good friend of his, and he said, Whitey, he said, this kid has got to go home. If he doesn't go home, he's having a nervous breakdown. And Whitey says, well, I want to get home too. He says, Whitey, if this kid doesn't get home, he said, he's going to have a nervous breakdown. He's having it right now. So Whitey let him go in his spot, and he had to wait another 2 months. He was a great guy, Whitey. He was a good friend of mine. And anyhow,
he came home and he
came home. He couldn't get a job.
Unbelievable. So
Couldn't,
sad.
and he put in for the war memorial there, and they said, we don't know if you can handle men. He had 10,000 men under it, and he had to start it as a labor and worked his way up.
And again, he worked his way up in Kodak. He ended up being the boss, right?
Yeah, he sure. Well, he was one of the. He was
high up.
I remember bringing. There was one kid I never forgot his name, and he was a college kid, and everything, and he didn't like the job, and he says, "Why don't you come in and pick the job you'd like?" I could tell you stories about Whitey. We get into a lot of trouble if we did, but he was a great guy. He was my best friend.